Hello and good afternoon. We are here today with Nicole Gabai, and I'm Angela Brown, and we are here. And I've got a really interesting session for you today because here we are at the holidays. And as we approach the holidays, some of us have relatives coming over, and some of us are going to open that closet door. We're going to shove whatever we can inside, and we're going to hope that everything kind of looks clean and tidy when the relatives get here.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that somewhere between now and the end of the year, we got to open that closet door and we got to go back through everything. And maybe there's a better way than just shoving stuff in a closet.
Yes.
So today we're going to have that discussion about what do you do and how do you organize your house and about those holiday decorations. What do you do with the holiday decorations before and after the holidays and all the things? So please help me welcome
Yeah.
Nicole Gabai. Nicole, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for being here today.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
Right. So you wrote a book. You wrote a book called The Art of Organizing. Tell me about the book, and then I
I
want to jump
did.
in and I want to
And
hear all the details.
I'll show you the book right here, The Art of Organizing. Yes, I have been an organizer for 23 years, and I am also an artist. And I decided to put all of the methods that I've been teaching, not only doing classes and workshops, but teaching all of my clients. And many clients would call me again and again and say, hey, can you teach our group this? Can you show us that, particular method that has worked so well? So I decided to put it in a book, and I'm also an artist. So the book is illustrated. I did over 80 illustrations, and it just came out in June. So yay.
So when you say you're an artist, you literally sat down and you drew all the illustrations and
I
you
did. I
explained how we organize instead of just telling us.
exactly. I wanted it to be a very fun, approachable um, read. I have been looking at organizing books, for decades now. And, it's very great information, but it's a bit dense, it's a bit intense. And to me, this is such a visual medium. It's such a visual career, really. And without showing examples, I just felt like something was missing. And when I would go to my clients' homes, I found myself always drawing something for them. I'd say, oh, you need a magazine box for this. They would be like, well, what is that? Oh, okay, let me draw a sketch for you. Here it is. Oh, that. Then they'd say, oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Or I would say, here's, you need some shoe shelves and we can stack them up. And again, they'd be like, what do you mean? So I found that once I gave a visual, it was much easier for us to share this common language.
So what is it? What is a shoe shelf?
Well, ideally, I recommend they're made of melamine, and they come flat in a box. You put them together with a couple of screws here and there, but basically, it's two flat shelves making the floor your bottom shelf. So you end up with three levels of being able to stack your shoes, and I recommend those way better than like the little curved wire or something slanted that has a little lip on it. I like the straight flat shelving because you can stack another set of shelves on top of it. And you can end up basically with 6 or 7 layers of shoe shelves. And I also recommend, it's funny, a lot of people put their shoes into the closet where the back is facing out.
Mhm.
And I recommend just flip it. Do one shoe front and one shoe to the back. So you can see the front of your shoe. That's really the part
Ah.
when you're getting dressed, that's the part you're going to see or anyone's going to see. No one's really looking at your heel. They're looking at the front of the shoe. So on a flat surface, I like that you can have both visuals. And that also saves space. You can fit more pair of shoes usually across a shelf.
What a great tip. All right.
Mm.
So we're like 4 minutes in. We've already got a really great tip
Yeah.
about a stackable shoe shelf and turning the shoe backwards and
Yes.
forwards so that you've got
Perfect.
one shoe back and one shoe front. You can
Yes.
see the front of the shoe and it saves
Yes.
space. And
Mhm.
that way it will help you decide to use your shoes instead of just letting them sit there in the closet.
Exactly, collecting dust, which we don't
This
want.
was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. No, I'm kidding.
I have that and many more tips. I love questions, so please fire away.
Well, that was awesome. Okay, so you wrote this book, The Art of Organizing,
Mhm.
and it's illustrated so
Yeah.
that somebody that wants to get organized for the new year, for example, can not
Yes.
only pick up a copy for the holidays and give it away as a gift to
Yeah.
the person they love that they don't know how to tell, here's how to get organized. But
Mhm.
so tell us, you also, in addition to this, have just gone through a certification program where you are one of, I think, only 100 people in the country that
No,
are
in the world. In the world.
in the world. Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about the virtual or professional organizer certification.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yes, thank you. So basically, all the most people do hands-on organizing. That's kind of the way we've been doing it. And I've been doing it for a couple of decades. And I started thinking about there's got to be a better way or a different way to reach more people. And, I had that idea in mind with my book. Like I thought it was very important for everyone to have access to learn these skills because they really are just skills that somehow along the way we need to have been taught or shown these skills. So I went to one of the organizing conventions, and sure enough, someone told me about a teacher who was issuing certifications, and she's an official guru in our industry, and she's very highly respected, very well known. And I took the course, and now I am a certified virtual organizing professional. And it's very exciting because many organizers possibly do something of that nature from time to time with a client. And I had done that as well, but I felt that I wanted a structure to it. So with this certification, we've learned a lot of things about the virtual process.
Mhm.
It definitely is for people that are a little more high functioning, but not necessarily. It's just more for someone who perhaps they don't want somebody in their space. Perhaps they want to just manage their time and they want only to show me a certain portion of the house. Maybe they don't want me to see everything. They're going to say, I just want to look at this closet. So it gives
Mhm.
the client more control as to their comfort level. And it's a lot less expensive because, let's face it, organizing professionals, they can get pricey because usually we worked in 3 to 4 hour blocks of time.
Mhm.
And that's very helpful, but it's also expensive. And in virtual, we only do sessions for 1 hour at a time, 1.5 hours maximum. And the benefits are you get myself, the person who is guiding you professionally, to give you the best insights and information on how to organize your space. But the client has more control of the decision making. Not that an organizer ever comes in and says, this is what you do. No, it's a collaboration. We work together, we talk about it, and really explore what will work for that client.
So let's pretend for a second that I'm the client. And
Yes.
so I call you up on the phone and
Mhm.
I'm using my phone. Do I look at my phone and not like, are we doing FaceTime when we're
You
having a
do?
conversation? Or do I
We
need like a little stand to put my phone on and I'm going to face it now towards my closet? Like what is
correct.
the process?
Yes. So both, in the beginning, we will face each other. And the wonderful thing about the process, which I'll get to in a second, but yes, you're right. It's very helpful to have a stand and you'll do, reverse camera so that I can see what you're seeing. So if
Mm,
we're going to work on this dresser in your closet that has shelves, it has drawers, but there's like, tons of things in front of it. You threw in the duvets, you threw in boxes of old clothes and shoe. You can't even get to that dresser. I need to see that. And then we break it down into small parts, but we
got
do
it.
the whole session on a FaceTime format. The really helpful thing is between sessions, a client has total access to me. They can text me, they can show me their progress, they can ask questions. I want to buy this product. Do you think it will work? Am I ready for this yet? That's one helpful thing. The other thing is I keep a journal with the client. In every session, I write the synopsis of what our goal was, what we worked on, what the feedback has been, and then where we go on the next session. And the client and I share this journal, so they are constantly seeing their progress too. And that's another great thing we've learned about the virtual process is that the learning that is shared has been exponential because it has been thought, in science for up to now saying once, you turn 8 years old, your brain's like a sponge and then you don't have that sponginess and you don't remember things anymore. You can't learn new things. But now the science has proven to us that that isn't true. And we, in fact, are constantly learning and creating new synapses if we have new skills. So in this virtual process, I am imparting knowledge to the client so that they can reduce bad habits. So those synapses will quietly and slowly disappear. And then new synapses and new habits are being learned. So with the repetition, we meet once a week or twice a week. They are learning these skills. So there is science behind it. It's not just, oh, let's make it convenient, because there's a lot that the client gets out of it that's really helpful.
I want to stop for just a second. Speaking of
Yes.
helpful, and I want to say thanks to everybody that showed up today. We've got a whole bunch of friends that showed up today. We've got Nick. Hey, Nick, how you doing today? Glad that you're here. We've got Charity. Charity, I'm glad that you're here. Happy New Year and Merry Christmas. We've got Electro Magic. Electro Magic. I don't know what that is, but I want to know more. That sounds like fun. Hello and
Very
welcome. We've got Rachel Rose from England. So good to be here. Guess
excellent.
what? It's so good to have you. And thank you
Yes.
for your support. I appreciate you showing up. We've got Commander Alpha Turkey. I don't know what that is either, but oh my goodness, I'm so glad.
Sounds
This is
good.
fun.
Yeah.
This is fun, you guys, and thank you so much for being here. Okay.
You're
I
welcome.
really
You're welcome.
appreciate
My
this is a
pleasure.
holiday weekend. You guys could be doing anything under the sun, and you chose to hang out with us. So thank
Yes.
you
Thanks
very
for
much.
joining us.
All right, so I got a question. We're talking about hiring you virtually. All right, this
Mhm.
is really scary. You said that you're taking pictures and there's a journal. So what does this mean? Does this mean that there's a shared Google Drive or a shared Dropbox? Does this mean that there's an app somewhere that I have my before and after pictures in? How do we stay on task with the same information so that I can see my progress visit to visit, and that
Yes.
I know as I'm learning the new things that I can track my progress as to what I learned?
Yes. So that's a great question. It depends on the level of technology that a client is comfortable with, but all of the above, we can use Google, we can use Dropbox. Um, it just depends. And then I've worked with clients who really don't want to do any of that. And so
Mhm.
I just keep a Word document going and then we send it back and forth. They get to read the progress. If they said, oh, well, they wanted to change the narrative a little. I actually did learn this. And in addition to that, or maybe, I don't know if I like that idea. Can we revisit it next week or something? So we can send it back and forth. It's very easy.
So you're flexible based on the learning style of the person you're working with. Oh, I love that.
100%, 100%. And that to me is the beauty of having experience. This particular certification, you can't just go and say, hey, I want to get certified. You have to have around 5 or 10 years already hands-on experience
Mm.
to understand how to impart our knowledge to the client. So it's kind of like taking this uh, organizing career path and bringing it to another level.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought that up because there are a lot of people that jump into the industry and they
Yeah,
say, okay, well, I got a camera, so I'm a virtual coach or what have you. And they don't have the know how to get from point A to point B through
right.
someone else's belongings. So that is a really sticky subject. And I want to uncover it today because you are the expert. You've written the book, you've
Mm,
got the certifications. I love it.
mm,
But here we are at the holidays.
yeah.
And many of us have families that are coming in, and many of us have that one relative that walks in and they kind of got their nose up in the air and they wander
Mm.
around and they start like running their fingers across the leaves of your plants to see if you dusted and what have you. And you're like, oh, no, you didn't. Right. But we know
Right.
those people are coming.
Yeah.
They're going to be running their hands across the top of the fridge and they're going to be looking
Oh,
for dust so they can
right.
shame us and what have you. So, all right, where do we start if we're just like normal, everyday, average people and we just have like normal, everyday, average clutter in our homes? Relatives are coming and we've got like 2 days. What do we do?
Okay. Well, if you just have those 2 days, I mean, the thing is, there is a difference between clean and decluttering. So that in and of itself is a little different. If dust is there, dust is there. I don't think any level of organizing changes that. But insofar as the visual, how do we handle that? Our eyes need a rest. When we see a room that has stuff every single square inch, that is what's dizzying. That's what it makes us a little unsettled, actually. And a couple of quick tips is remove things that maybe don't pertain to the holiday. Maybe you have things that are from summertime, or you've got stuff in there from the fall. Well, now we're at winter and holidays. So, eliminate things that are kind of the obvious. And then I always like to say for the holidays, just do little like accents. You don't have to fill the entire table of the back of the sofa with all the holiday decor. And same with any surface. Just do little vignettes. I've seen it where I always recommend like do one little story. Maybe you have a tree with a small tree, decor, little lights, and maybe you do a little bit of something sparkly. Maybe you do fairy lights, or you do like gold color pine cones, or just enough that we feel festive. There's no need to, I mean, yes, some people love to bring out the train set and the cotton batting, and they want the whole winter scene, and that's beautiful, but that is also a specialty. It's not for every household every day. So I would say definitely keep them into small little vignettes.
And does the company determine how much stuff you have? And the reason I say that is if you
Hmm.
have people that are coming for a 2-hour window, are
Yeah.
you only decorating the room that they're going to be in? And is that the room we want to declutter? Or do we feel like we have to declutter the whole entire house in case they take themselves on a tour?
Well, that's a really good question, and I wonder about that sometimes because it's culturally based. If I'm also from France and I have French family. In France, you never show people your house. You come to the dining room or the living room, and that's all you see. You don't get the tour. They don't do that. It's not like, here, let me show you my bathroom and all my guest rooms. And it's not like that. So I guess it depends on your company. If they, in fact, want to see the house because it's something you've done new that you want to show them, then yeah, to tidy it up is always helpful. Now, depending on what level you're starting with. Now, if you're just saying today is day one and now you've got tomorrow and Sunday's the day,
Yeah, it is.
you know,
Yeah. And then
yeah,
what?
right. So there are other ways to make things appear less cluttered. For example, get some pretty trays and you can put some of your whatever is floating around your kitchen. You've got envelopes, you've got scotch tape, you don't have room in the drawer. Just put it all on a tray. So now you can move the stuff to a corner and it's out of the way, but it still looks corralled and together. It has, a little bit more of a pretty, accent versus all over the tabletop. So that would be my quick fix. One of the very important principles that I do teach and I think is really important to understand, it's called back to one. And what that would do is you would need a little more than the 2 days, between now and Christmas. But let's say you had the time and you were going to do this after Christmas for future. I recommend something called Back to One, and that is from my TV production days, where basically what that means is you establish how you want that room to look, and that's your baseline. So we
Mhm.
call that Back to One. And then, of course, you live your life and you have family and you have kids and you have pets and you have all kinds of things happen, but you know where Back to One is. And that's the key to achieve your one, your baseline, and always know you can return to it easily. So maybe it won't happen for this Christmas, but definitely for after the holidays, establishing your back to one in every room is very helpful.
All right. So in my house, I have about 10 employees at any given time that work out of my house.
Oh,
And so I have a great big conservatory. It's a great big room of nothing but windows.
mm,
And it is wall to wall, big tables. And then there are rolly chairs that are like office chairs with wheels on them.
yeah.
And so during the holidays, we had a party, and this is like last week. And so my back to one is that room, wall to wall with tables, and then the chairs are there. But since we had a party, I
Yes,
knew that I wanted everybody near the kitchen with all the food. So they're not tracking food all through the house to that room where they would sit.
I see.
So I rolled up the great big oriental rug that's in my living room
Mhm.
and I brought in those big tables. They're great big 8-foot tables. I brought in a couple of those and put them back to back and then one over to the side. And I brought in all the rolly chairs and then we had tablecloths over the top. So we had
Right.
this great big eating area that was next to all the food.
Yeah.
And then after the party was over, we went back to one and everything was returned back to its original place. Is that what you're talking about?
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. Now, in your case, it sounds like there's a lot more simplicity to what's on the tabletops in general for your back to one, right? I don't know, I'm guessing. But at home, we tend to have a lot more things. We have our vases and we have our books and we have, pretty decor and memorabilia from a trip. So we tend to have a little more stuff. But if you can establish that back to one and that is your happy place, that's your peaceful place, then once you know it, you go right back to it like you did at your office for sure.
Well, and then the holiday decorating becomes the issue because
Yeah.
if you are going to, in this particular case, I kind of upset the whole house in order
Mhm.
to have a party, where
Yeah,
before it was actually tidied up, and now I'm going to upset it from its business-like version to its more like home party-like version. So
exactly.
tell us about when you upset everything and now you're decorating for the holidays, and you said keep it minimal and have hints of the holiday. But
Yes,
share
exactly.
with us how you would upset getting a whole room ready for a guest or a family to come stay with you. That's not your back to one scenario.
So basically, you're saying the guest room area or just the kitchen, living room where you're going to be with your guest?
Let's get down and dirty with it. Let's pretend like a family of 5 is gonna come stay with you over the holidays, and
Yeah.
your whole entire house is gonna be upturned and renovated, moved around, and stuff's gonna get shuffled.
Yep.
We gotta
Okay.
make room for 5 people and all their stuff.
Okay. And then what's the question on that part? How do you get it back to one when they leave?
How do we make it manageable and make them feel at home and it's not so cluttered?
Well, that does come down to quantity. We collect things, we have beauty things, we love our stuff. Everyone's got stuff. Well, it becomes a matter of quantity. Do you need 5 vases out? You're going to have a family of 5. Maybe one vase is enough. Put the rest away. And that goes for every little seating area. Do you need 12 art books out? Maybe not. Let's move those to another shelving area. So you kind of start by section by section. That's another one of my principles is sectional organizing where you really look at each room and say, this is going to be the reading section. So now I'm going to put all the books over there so they're out of my way. And this is going to be maybe where the little kids, this is the kids section, all their coloring books, their art books, their toys. There, maybe you put a blanket out for them, and that's the kids section. So we kind of create these sections and clear away anything that doesn't need to be in that section for that particular, 5 guest weekend. And you can really get rid of a lot of clutter because in terms of what those 5 guests need, you simplify it. You say, okay, if we're going to play games, we've got a few games in this section. And
Mhm.
when we're going to have dinner, we're going to be at this table. And, if you need to move the coffee table because you need to open the bed, as long as you can clear away, you know, your favorites and just put the necessities for that group, I think you clear a lot of clutter out of the way.
I think that's probably a good tip. What happens when you are feeling desperate
Mhm.
and you are feeling paralyzed? Like I don't know where to start, and I know that I need to create a game section, and I got to create a kids book and coloring section or what have you, and then still an eating area that can be moved maybe during the evening so that we can pull out the hide a bed or whatever.
Right.
Where do you start if you are just feeling like there's too much to do and I'm stuck?
Well, I think you kind of prioritize, you say, what's the most important thing? Well, the most important for the guests coming is where they're going to eat. That's
Mm.
kind of like, let's do the kitchen. We're cooking, we're eating, let's work on the kitchen. So if it's overwhelming, which a lot of times I know it is, you start, if you can start weeks in advance, put in 1 hour a day, just do the tabletops or the countertops. The next day, you move over to the dining area or maybe to a week for the kitchen, a week for the dining area. And the dining area tends to be very central. It tends to be a place where everything gets placed, mail, book bags, bills, everything you're working on, it ends up at the dining table. So you have to establish your back to one, really. And if there's absolutely no system, then you containerize, even though I always recommend containerizing is the last thing we do. But if you're in a pinch and you really need to start somewhere, I would get large containers and then designate each container as a section. So then you're going to fill, okay, this entire box is going to be just my work stuff. This entire box is going to be just the, backpacks and things everyone needs to get their day going when vacation's over. Now, that is if you're really stuck and you're in a pinch, but that is not ever the first thing I would recommend, because then it's too convenient. Then you move the box to the side and you say, well, I know what's in there. That's my work stuff. So that is just at a last resort. If you are, if people are coming and you're scrambling, but other than that, you want to always have your back to one system in place.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, the relatives are coming in 2 days. We
Yeah.
got a family of 5 just in this made up scenario. And
Yeah.
if you guys do have a family of 5, I'm not knocking you. Good luck. I
No,
I wish you
good.
the best.
All fun. Yeah.
But if that's the case, we are going to start with the areas that the holiday company is going to be in for the majority of the time, which is going to be the kitchen and the eating area. And so if we unclutter that area first, we've
Yes.
created a centralized hub that
Yes.
makes everyone feel welcome. Like this is where the conversations will be. There will be tea on the times when there's no food. And so there will be like hot tea or hot chocolate or something like that where everybody can sit and hang out.
Yeah.
And during the day when there's no food and the tables are clean, kids can sit at the tables and they can do the puzzles and the games and the coloring and everything. So let's keep that sort of close so that we can just open that box and pull out the games and the coloring books and what have you, and they can still sit at the table after the tables have been cleared from the food.
Exactly.
So the dishwasher can be running while the kids are playing games and we can still hang out in this area. So I'm guessing the next natural area would be the bathrooms.
Yes, very important, of course, if you're eating and drinking. Yes.
Okay, so the bathrooms that the company is going to use, are those the priority bathrooms first? Like if you have a chance to really double down and clean like the master bathroom or the guest bathroom, the guest bathroom is probably going to come first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I really would discourage guests to come into my bedroom and my bathroom. Not that because it's a mess, but because that's like private. And no matter who your guests are, it could be siblings, it could be your children. But I think that there's areas that are a little more private, and then there's areas that you want to share with everybody. So the guest bathroom would be that.
In the United States, not France, but in the United States, there is this thing. I don't know why it is, but people are like, oh, I want to see the house. What have you done with the house since we were here last?
Right.
There are a lot of families that will like go snooping about and they go look about. I do want to share one secret with you. This is from the house cleaning perspective.
Okay.
So let's say, and this goes back to what Nicole said about cleaning is different from decluttering.
Right.
So let's say, for example, that your house is tidy, but it's not really clean and you didn't really have a chance yet to clean it. All right, here's the secret. When it gets dark and the lights go out, if you will find a light that's on the far end of the room and you'll turn it on like a small lamp that has a dimmer on it, but put in enough light that you can see in the room without turning on the bright lights. Okay. What happens is when the people go about snooping, they're going to pop their head in the room and they're going to look around and go, oh, wow, this is an awesome room. But they're not going to see all the dust and they're not going to see all the things you didn't get a chance to clean. Like they won't see cobwebs and all that stuff. There's a dim light in the far corner of the room and they'll look at it and go, oh, this is so cozy and so nice. And then they'll leave without turning on the bright lights and going, oh, you didn't get a chance to clean, right?
That's a great idea for sure.
So in the primary bath, and this happened the other night when we had company as well. In the primary bath, right above, there's one of those great big monster tubs that nobody ever uses. It's just a big tub. And right above that is a great big light, okay, that kind of dims this, makes this ambient light in the bathroom. But it also casts this huge shadow across where the shower is. And in the shower is where like all the shampoos and the razor and all the stuff is there. And instead of like cleaning everything out, like, oh, company is coming over, I got to make it look like it's showcase ready. No. Leave your soap and your shampoo and all the stuff in the shower, but turn on that light because it's a distraction light. And like I say, it casts a shadow into the closet and across the shower, and it makes the whole room look nice and clean. And what you see is this big tub below that's all nice and clean. And you're like, whoa, check it out, this huge tub. And then
Right.
your eyes see what you want people to see, and it kind of distracts from the rest. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's your quick tip.
I mean, I think that's a great quick tip right there. The lighting. Lighting does change everything. And you have
Mm.
the ambient lighting, you have ambiance, you change it up exactly what you just said, where you want people to focus. Now,
Great.
I wanted to add one more thing. Excuse me. Sorry, I
No,
didn't
go
mean to
ahead.
interrupt you. That you bring up a good point that you mentioned earlier. You said that cleaning is quite different from decluttering. And I would also like to add that organizing is different from decluttering.
Mm.
So, there's three kind of steps involved. And my favorite topic is the organizing, although decluttering does usually need to come first.
Well, let's talk about the organizing for a second, because a lot of people are not ready, or they're not able, with
Mhm.
different family members that are like, no, that's my stuff. Don't declutter it. Don't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so we find ourselves in a situation of just organizing. Let's talk about the organizing for a minute, and how we deal with some of the stuff we have to organize that we can't get rid of, and we just have too much of it.
Well, that's the key, is too much of it. It's all really a matter of quantity. The bigger the house, the more stuff we put in it. It's like ladies with their purse. The bigger your purse, the more you put in it. And to some degree, it is a bit of a discipline. You have to really ask yourself, do I need 10 vases? Well, actually, 7 of those I never use because they're really not my favorites. And I actually don't even like them. So
Mm.
you kind of need to take that moment to focus on each of those things to declutter. Um, because just to have too much stuff, I always say there's somebody else in the world that needs it way more than you do. So I'm a big fan of donations, repurposing, upcycle, reusing in other ways. And once you get started with it, I think it takes momentum, and it encourages you to look at other rooms, all the other spaces that you've been storing things for probably way too long.
So you just mentioned donations, and one of the things I know about donations is I know in my town where the donation drop-offs are.
Yes.
And so I have set up, like, if I'm going out to lunch and I'm going to a particular restaurant that is near the drop-off center, I
Yes.
will have a box that every time I go to that restaurant, I will go to the drop-off on my way. So there's a
Right.
trigger that lets me know that, hey, I'm going to that restaurant. Near
Yes.
that is the Salvation Army drop-off. Therefore, what stuff am I taking today? And I can just
Exactly.
run around the house and go, I haven't used this in a while. I'm not using that. That's been around for way too long. I forgot about that. And if there's
Yes.
something I think I might want, but not using it, I'll put it in a closet. It's like kind of like a holding closet. And so I always open the holding closet and go, okay, I haven't used anything in here for 90 days. What am I okay getting rid of? Let me take that on the way to the restaurant. And that
Yeah.
way it's kind of a trigger to just reduce the stuff that we have.
Yes, I think that's an excellent idea. I also, to add to that, I like to always have a big shopping bag, some kind of large bag in my closet at all times. And I try something on and I go, no, I'm never going to wear it again. I don't like it.
Mm.
Put it in the bag so that bag is ready to go. And then I have one in the garage, which is a box. And that one is for household goods. So if I look at my lamp and I say, you know what, I can't, this lamp, I've looked at it for 30 years, no need, put the lamp in the box. So my box is now ready. So I consistently I'm looking around. It's like any self-care. We don't just do it once. We have to continuously do that. And constantly walk around the house and say, now do I really like those placemats? Because I've been using those for like 20 years. I think I can upgrade now or whatever. So little things like that, they do add to your quality of life. Just it does help when you get rid of things that you don't need or don't like. It does help your peace of mind and clarity. So it all sort of is interconnected.
Well, and as we talk about the holidays, I'm really hoping that nobody gets new placemats for Christmas. That's like not a great gift or anything. I'm like, that's not the coolest gift on earth. But if you did get some new placemats for Christmas, for
Yeah.
example,
Mhm.
getting rid of the old ones, and you just brought this up, there's a really great point. Just because you had something for 20 years does not mean you need to have it for another 20.
Correct.
If you do nothing but change out the placemats, it could give your every meal setting a whole new feel or a whole new vibe. And something as simple as getting rid of the old placemats and
100,
making room for new ones can upgrade or update your meal setting. And so
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's little tiny things. Just because we took really good care of something
Yeah.
and we hung on to it forever
Yeah.
doesn't mean we have to keep hanging on to it.
Exactly. Somebody out there needs those more than you do anymore. Right now, you can maybe upgrade or change it out. Another thing I love along those lines is I love to set the table with pretty napkins, but I don't do cloth because it's just too high maintenance. So I buy those larger napkins that usually people put as a hand towel in the bathroom. I use those as a dinner napkin. So there's millions of patterns out there. And for, maybe $10, I have enough um, to change out and add a whole new look to my entire dining table, dining experience. It's those little things that really add to your quality of life.
Well, and I think when we become really crystal clear
Mhm.
about what our tell me the term again, back to one?
Back to one, yeah,
Back to one.
yeah,
When we become really clear about what our back to one setup is,
yes,
it makes everything else really easy.
yeah,
Because, for example, what I just heard Nicole say, and I love this idea, is if your back to one is like, and let's walk through this logically for a second.
yeah,
If you have a clear glass plate
hmm,
and your clear glass plate is your back to one,
right,
and that is your setting, you
yes,
can dress that up with a different holiday napkin, whether it's Valentine's Day or it's Christmas or
right,
Thanksgiving or
right,
whatever. And
mhm,
you can have the same set of dishes with something small, like a little stack of dinner napkins that you can change out and
right,
wash so they're reusable. But that way you can dress something up without having gobs of extra sets of dishes for
right,
every single holiday. So
exactly,
your back to one is something simple with
yeah,
what I heard Nicole say earlier, and we kind of skipped by it. So I'm going to go back to it for just a second
sure,
with a hint of. She didn't say deck the halls with all the Griswold goodness.
right,
She said a hint of glitter or tinsel or something that when your eyes are looking at this area of the room, there's a
right,
hint of the holiday there. You're like, oh yes, there's the holidays in this room,
right,
right?
right.
Without
We
going
don't need
all crazy
right. We don't need to
with all the
overwhelm the
stuff.
space. Yeah, yeah. And it's, also proportions, depending on how big your space is how big your little vignette's going to be. And, maybe it doesn't need to be in every room. It depends on the size of your home, the size of your apartment, whatever,
And your lifestyle.
and your lifestyle. And
And I
as long as we're on the topic of organizing and decluttering, we kind of know that we're all in tune to how do we simplify.
Well, and I know I said lifestyle because this year I did not have time to decorate for the holidays.
Mhm.
I chose not to. And
Yeah.
I chose not to, check this out, I chose not to in September. So
Ah,
in September, I said, I'm not going to decorate for the holidays this year, meaning we're not going to have outdoor lights and I'm not going to have 12 Christmas trees in the house and all
yeah.
the things. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time, number one. We're hiring like crazy right now. And
Yeah.
going into the holidays, I've got a bunch of projects that I need to work on, and I'm
Yeah.
going to be training new hires. So I'm not going to decorate this year. And so I told everybody on our team, I'm not going to decorate this year. And they're like, okay. So I got a verbal from my husband. I got a verbal
Mhm.
from everybody that comes to the house. No decorating this year. So what I did was I bought 5 plants, and they were little plants that had like the red tinsel around the bottom, like the red foil, and they were like
Beautiful.
little Christmas cactuses.
Yeah.
So they're red tinsel, or red foil, and green thing. So red and green. Okay, now we got the colors, and
Right.
I put them around the house so that when you look, you're like, oh, there's a hint of the holiday. Then
Exactly.
we had a couple of holiday parties. Now I'm going to tell you a trick. I did a trick this year. It's the first year that I've ever done it, and it was beautiful. I scheduled all the holiday parties in the same week so that when I rolled up the
Wow.
rug and I brought the tables in, they just
Yeah.
stayed there night after night after night. We did one party and then the next party and so on, so
Nice.
that all the parties were at once. And then I did bulk cooking.
Shopping and cooking and yeah.
Yes, yes. So what I did was, and I everything's out on the countertop. And I made one deli tray and one deli tray and one deli tray,
Yeah.
and then I made one relish tray and one relish tray and one relish tray. So I had everything,
Brilliant.
wrap them up, and then put them in different refrigerators that I have so that, this refrigerator is one party, pull everything out, we eat it. I got take home
Amazing.
boxes so everybody could take home the leftovers. The next party came out, the new crock pots came out. I just
Brilliant.
repeat, rinse and repeat.
Wow. Rinse and
Party number
repeat.
2. It
Brilliant.
was seamless. Okay,
Yeah.
but the cool thing was for
Hmm.
decorating,
Yeah.
where is my company coming? And my company is coming through the front entry door.
Hmm.
They're going to walk around the stairway and they're going to come to the great big main room that has all
Hmm.
the tables and chairs and the food,
Right.
which is right there by the kitchen. That's the area that I'm decorating. That's
Exactly.
it.
That's
So I
it.
put a little Christmas tree in the main area between the kitchen and the eating area,
Yeah.
so that no matter where you are, you can see the tree.
Right.
Then
Nice.
I took, as you walk into the house, I
Hmm.
took some tinsel and I wrapped it around the banister and I wrapped around Christmas lights around the banister. So you walk in
Perfect.
and you're like, oh, it's Christmas. And then you
Right.
walk in and you have red tablecloths with the little plants. And then there's a little hint of a tree in the corner. Done. Okay.
And that's
So that
festive. That's what you're
that
you're offering festive.
and it was a hint, like, oh, we didn't forget about the holiday.
Right.
There's a hint of the holiday
Yeah.
without going all crazy because I don't have time to I don't have time to do it.
Right.
But we were able to get all the parties in and we were able to do it in a timely manner
Yeah.
so that everything happened kind of in synchronicity.
Hmm.
And then it wasn't overwhelm where there was so much holiday like looked like the holiday puked on itself. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. And I'm sure it's still all your guests still felt warm and welcome and festive. And really, the little vignettes that you just mentioned is kind of what I was saying too. It's like you have a little hint of this here and there. And that's really what the season's about. I mean,
Mm.
for some people, yes, they can go all out, but I think it's a lot of this is for us to really go, soul searching, like how much is enough?
Mhm.
And really kind of go on that theme of it's usually doesn't take much for it to be enough.
One other thing that I did is on the island where all the food was, I
Mhm.
put one string of colored Christmas lights and I kind of
Beautiful.
strung it between all of the plates of food so that
Nice.
they all kind of lit up in a weird, cool place. And there was
Yeah.
like the lights and festiveness. All right. The cool part about that is because going into the holiday, there was so much stress with all the other back stuff going on in the back of our lives
Yes.
that it was permission. And I have to preface this. We lost my husband's father about 6 weeks ago.
Oh,
And so him being ill and the funeral and a bunch of other things going on didn't really allow me to be present for the holiday the way that I would have
right.
liked to. So
Right.
I'm not trying to be a Scrooge, but I gave myself permission to say I'm not going to go all out this year and that's
Oh,
okay.
and that is okay because life happens and we all have to deal with stuff at different levels, and that's a really heightened example of where life gets you. And we have to be honest with ourselves and forget about the aunt that's going to run her finger over the fridge.
We all have one of those, don't we? Or a mother-in-law or,
Yeah.
one of those relatives.
Yeah.
But I do want to focus on
Mhm.
there are things we can do that are
Yes.
going to get us back to what did you call it? Back to
Back
one?
to one. Uh-huh.
And I want us to start thinking in terms of what is our back to one? What is our back to one in a simple term at the dinner table?
Mhm.
What is back to one? And can I get back to one at the end of every meal? So that becomes the
Mhm.
new norm.
Yeah.
Instead of us just saying, well, I'll throw today's mail on the dinner table and then
Yeah.
hope by dinner time what? It's going to mysteriously disappear because it
Yeah.
never does.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
it piles up day after day after day, and then it becomes a big stack of stuff, and then it
Oh, yeah.
becomes overwhelming.
And then
But
it
if
looks like you gave permission to everything end up there. Now packages are there and now bags and maybe your jacket gets thrown there and an old pair of socks. And it just adds up. So definitely you don't want that to be your back to one. So
if
are you asking me what that would look like then? What would a back to one be?
Well, if you will give us a quick overview in
Mhm.
a home, what are the back to ones? Like there's a back to one at the dinner table, what it's going to look like when it gets back to one. And
Yes.
then there's a back to one after we brush our teeth at the bathroom vanity. There's a back to one where we reset everything for the next time we come in. Share
Yeah.
with us what some of the back to ones are so we can start focusing on those tiny little areas of the home. Maybe it doesn't all happen between now and Christmas, but
Yeah.
it can be as we reboot the new year. We can
Yes.
start thinking in terms of what is this area that is a back to one? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I think a lot of that, like you said, there's definitely each room of the house needs to have its back to one. And a lot of it is decision making. When I go to a client's home and I see stacks and piles of things, I know a lot of decisions haven't been made. So it is, getting real with yourself and saying, okay, I'm going to make my office back to one. What do I really want this to look like when I end every day? Because ideally, you spend 15 minutes at the end of a day getting that space back to one. So when you walk in the next day, you're ready, you're inspired, you're ready to go. You're not bogged down again because let's face it, when you see all the clutter, it is not very inspiring. So I would really look at every room of your house, including, like you said, the bathroom. What's your vanity going to look like back to one? And there may be 2 days that you just can't get it all back to one that day or the next day. Well, then you spend another, the third day, spend maybe 20 minutes putting everything back where your back to one is. And that even goes so far as to look at every drawer. And so that, because each step of the way, your things need a place to go. So what I call the bottleneck, you have to identify where's the bottleneck. If the drawer is so full of stuff and whatever has accumulated, then clearly your vanity can't get back to one because there's nowhere for those things to go. So I do recommend, look for that bottleneck. What's holding up the space, like the pattern of where you're going to put stuff. So ultimately, every piece of paper needs a home. And that's really what back to one is about, is making those decisions. What do I want this space to look like where I feel I'm clear-headed, I'm peaceful, this room looks serene to me, I like where it is. And that's your back to one. So even at that dining table, it may not be a cleared off dining table. Maybe you keep a centerpiece. Maybe you have a couple candles or whatever fits that room or that ambiance you want to create. That's your back to one.
So my question is, how useful is it to take a picture of back to one and say, okay, this is what my bathroom vanity looks like when
Mhm.
it's back to one.
Yeah.
And then before you leave for the night, like, okay, I just brushed my teeth and I'm really tired. Like this is the night that I fall asleep with my makeup on. I forgot to put my retainers in. I'm like,
Yeah.
before you leave, you're like, whoa, where's that picture? And you're like, whoa, that's back to one. And I'm looking around, you're like, whoa, wait a second. This is out of place. That's out of place. And you match it up with what you've decided is back to one. How
That's
useful would a picture be so that you can remind yourself until
yeah.
it becomes the new norm?
That's a great idea. And the thing is too, remember, it does change, life is not static. We don't live in that photo moment. You may add a new product, you may change up the blow dryer, you might add, you don't like those whatever hair products, now you want to try the new products. So it does have a fluid, way about it, but definitely taking a picture is a great idea. And it's funny, but having a tray, having all the little bits and things that are just sort of floaty, putting them in a tray, not a giant tray, but just a small, like any kind. It could be made out of wood or ceramic or whatever. Just putting it in a tray just kind of corrals the things that are just sitting around until you have that time to put them where they belong. So it's not only about what back to one looks like, it's also about what the drawers and the cabinets look like. How did you divide up those spaces to receive the things that are on the countertop? Does that make sense?
Yes. And you talked about containerizing
Yeah.
as a quick pass by and said it wasn't your favorite thing.
Oh
And
no,
it's
I love it, but it's not the first thing we do.
It's a go-to for me for problem areas. So for example, I am one of these people that when I get dressed in the morning, I
Mhm.
can scatter stuff like from here all the way across the vanity and just spread it out and like look at everything that I have and like what am I going to use today and just make a big mess. I can do
Yeah.
that every day. But
Mhm.
at the end of that session, whatever that looks like, it goes back inside a little travel case and it
Mhm.
goes inside my gym bag because I'm going to put my makeup on again the next morning when I go to the gym.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter where I am putting makeup on, whether it's
Yeah.
late in the night for a party, whether it's
Mhm.
before I jump on a YouTube show or something, or whether I'm coming from the gym. I'm
Yeah.
going to scatter everything out because that's just how I do.
Yeah.
And then when I'm done,
Mhm.
everything gets put back inside the little travel bag and it
Yeah.
goes back in the gym bag. And then I wipe the counter down. And my goal is my back to one is I'm going to wipe the counter down as if I was never here. And I'm
Wow,
going to
that's
wipe it down to
beautiful.
remove all the hair and any toothpaste bits anything
Yeah.
because whoever comes by after me, I want them to feel like, oh, wow, check it out. I'm the first one here at this space. And
Yes.
so to me, it's like a little game I play with myself. Back to one is like, it's going to look like I was never here.
Wow.
But then it's not left strewn out and about because it would be really easy for me to get in that trap.
Yes, and I see what you're saying and how that relates to the containers. No, I love the container conversation. However, you first want to declutter, decide what you're keeping, organize where it will go. So you have your
Mm,
sections. You decide this is going to be where I do all my hair products. This is going to be all the face products. Then you buy the containers because now you
mm,
know what you're keeping. That's my point. Not because I often have gone to people's homes and they'll say, I went to Container Store and I bought all these pretty things and I have boxes and bags, and how come I can't get organized? And I'll be
mhm,
like, well, because do you know what you're keeping? Do you know what you needed to store?
mhm.
Did you think about how you need to retrieve those items? In your case, that's a great solution is you have the makeup bag because the next time you're using that makeup, you're going to grab it and put it in your gym bag. So
Mhm.
things like that makes it so that you've already thought through what kind of container needs to be used for those items. So that's what I mean where it's the last thing we think about. You have to really designate where the things are going to go and how they can be stored depending on
Well,
what it is. Yeah.
it is a real issue because I too, just being inside people's homes for 32 years,
Yeah.
I have walked in and people are like, "Hey, can you help me unclutter this?" And they got all the containers, and I'm a big fan of clear plastic bins because I can see with my
Mhm.
eyes what's inside.
Exactly.
And they'll
Totally.
open a dresser or a drawer, and it will
Yeah.
have a whole bunch of clear containers that are just packed with things like, Band-Aids or makeup or
Right.
whatever, and it's just like gobs of different kinds, and I'm like, "Okay, now that it's in a container, that's awesome, but what of these are you using?" And they're like, "None of them."
Pitch it, pitch, donate. I mean, depends on what it is. There's a lot of service centers that really need toiletries.
Yeah.
And, depending, as long as it's not old and expired or whatever. But, I think a lot of people maybe just don't want to sit down and make the decisions because it is a lot of decision making.
Yeah.
It's yes, no, yes, no. I'm keeping this, I'm tossing it. I don't use it, whatever. And you have to also be okay sometimes saying, all right, the date says the cream is expired. I'm going to throw it out. Not, there's so much cream left. I
Mhm.
can't throw it out, but then you don't use it for 2 more years. So, you have to give yourself that permission that, hey, you didn't use that product. Okay, it didn't work for you. So you got to get rid of it. It's expired. Maybe the product is separating. You have to be okay with letting that go.
Alright, so before we leave the holiday conversation, because there's still some holiday left and it's still upon us, what is
Yeah.
your suggestion or
Mhm.
ideas for things that we're gonna receive as gifts for Christmas this year,
Mm,
that are things that people that don't know us very well, they bought us a gift out of the
yeah.
goodness of their heart, and we
Yes.
take one look at it and we're like, "Yikes, cool,
Right.
thank you," and you know you're never gonna use it.
Yeah.
You know that it's the wrong size. I don't know why. I'm not a extra small size person, and yet there's a relative that every year will buy me a shirt or something that's like extra, extra small. It's like this big. I'm like,
Like
"Thank
never.
you. I'm flattered and
Yeah.
so can't wear it."
Right.
What do we do with all that stuff?
Well, so yes, once you kind of put the sections where those are the returns, and look, again, you got to be honest with yourself. Is it worth the return? Maybe something isn't that expensive, and really to go out of your way to go return that thing, you might as well put it in your donation bag because
Mm,
it's probably brand new. So that's thing one. Thing two is I have a little gift drawer and things that I love that I'm not gonna use, but they're great. Someone else might like it, and I could give it as a gift. So I have my gift drawer. So you kind of evaluate, what is the item and can somebody else use it or do you know someone that can use it? So those are kind of the three categories, but then I also have a little bit of a wild card where I have a cousin that loves to crochet and she crocheted me this beautiful like scarf wrap. It just wasn't going to work for me and it's beautiful and it's so much handwork and I appreciate it. So I keep it in my closet and when she comes over, I'll just, have it out. I'll look, it's hanging near my coat, I'll just kind of keep that as a keepsake. Now, if she gave me one every year and I had 10 of them, would I keep them all? No, I would donate them. You know, it's a matter of quantity, it's about decision making.
Mhm.
And sometimes we have to make the hard decisions, but with the gifts and regifting, I think that's a wonderful opportunity to maintain your own gift drawer.
Well, and I like the idea that you have a specific place
Yeah.
where it is designated for regifting.
Yeah.
And I might add to that that
Mhm.
you put a post-it note or something on it that says that Cheryl gave me this so that we don't regift it in Cheryl's circles, so that
That's a
Cheryl
very
doesn't
good point.
feel like, oh, I just gave that to Angela and look, here it is
Yes.
3 days later and she's already regifted it to someone else
Yes.
that I'm related to.
Yes. Yes. You do have to keep that in mind for sure. That's a good point.
And I would suggest if there's no gift return, because sometimes you don't get a gift receipt as a
Right.
return
Hmm.
to return it. And
Yes.
like you said, sometimes it's not worth the time and energy to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that you have a designated place for that. And so I'm going to recommend, in order to prevent just buying random things
Yes.
and overstocking and just buying online because shopping is easy
Yes.
online,
Hmm.
but to shop first from your shelf or your drawer of
Yes.
regifts instead
Yeah.
of going to a house. And for example, I don't drink alcohol. But I don't know why every single time someone comes to my house, they bring me a bottle of wine, like, hey, here's your wine. I'm like,
I
oh,
know.
thanks.
Yeah.
And I have this wine shelf and I put it in there. It looks like we got a lot of wine. So, like, hey, and if people come over, they can have some wine.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
I don't really drink wine.
Mm.
But there I have wine I can also regift,
Yes.
right? So if I
Exactly.
go to someone else's house, I can take one of those bottles of wine without me going to buy a bottle of wine and say,
Exactly.
hey, here's a bottle of wine. Welcome. And I can
Exactly.
regift that. So what can you regift? And I love the question.
Mm.
This holiday season, what do you have that you can regift that's in new or like new condition that
Yep.
someone has given you that you
Mhm.
are gracious for, but you know you're never going to use it,
Right.
and you are available to then pass it along its way to someone either who needs it or wants it, or you feel obligated to give them a gift as well.
Exactly. And that's a really nice thing. I mean, I think the joy in the gift giving is really in the giving. So
Mhm.
once the gift has been given to us, that I don't think that person is really they're not, kind of keeping tabs on what happens to that gift.
Mhm.
It's the joy of the gift giving has been done and the
Right.
gracious accepting of the gift. So I grew up with a grandmother that she had a gift closet. And it was so much fun to go in her gift closet. I don't know if she had all brand new things. Maybe they were regifted. I don't know. But there was always great stuff in there. And it would be like, she'd be like, okay, go pick something today from the gift closet. Wow, really? So it's kind of a fun thing to just collect those. I think that's a wonderful way to keep on giving.
All right, so we have back to one.
Yeah.
We have a re-gift drawer, shelf, closet,
Yeah.
room. I mean, depends on who you are and who your grandma is. So
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
We have minimizing our decorations so
Yeah.
that it's going to reduce the frustration when it comes time
Hmm.
to declutter and put it all away and
Hmm.
store it for the holidays.
Yeah.
Any tips for taking down the ornaments and taking down the decorations and trying to organize all of that stuff to make it either easier next year when we
Hmm.
decorate again, or the storing process between now and next year so that we can access our other stuff that we do need easier?
Yeah, definitely. I love these ornament storage boxes. They're all over online. You can buy them anywhere, and they're clear sides so that you mentioned you want to know what's in it because ornaments come in so many different varieties. They're either breakable or they're fabric made or they're family heirlooms or whatever. And it's really nice to keep them separate. And these, organizing storage containers have each one a little compartment. So I would highly recommend that. And then for the lights, to get a reel, REEL, the reel
Mm.
that you can wrap the whole lighting system on. And you always want to store things for retrieval. That's a key concept. It's not like make it go away. It's really it's so that next year when you go to it, it's ready. And I do recommend wherever people have storage, shelving, it could be a closet, an attic, a basement, where your shelving units are, you have all of these different storage boxes, and they're clearly labeled. So
Mm.
Christmas is going to be on one shelf, and you've got everything you need for Christmas time. And then you have another shelf, maybe it's fall decor. And maybe another one is holiday decor for your little vignettes. And now each of those clear boxes, they might be a little bit uh, frosted plastic. I'm not saying it has to be clear like glass, but each of those has a label on it so that next year when you go to pull it out, you know exactly which boxes to take. So I'm a big fan of that.
Well, this has been so incredibly helpful. We've learned just a series of tips here that we can use to get us from today through Christmas, and then
Yeah.
from Christmas to the new year, and then
Yeah.
from new year to spring cleaning time. So I
Yeah.
love, love, love this conversation.
Oh,
Nicole,
thank
thank you
you. Me
so
too.
much for joining us today. Tell
Oh,
our
you're
listeners where
welcome.
they can go to find you and also hire you for your virtual coaching.
Yes. So I have my Instagram page. It's at Nicole Gabai, my full name, NicoleGabai. And I have a website. My company is called Be Organized. So the website is just the letter B hyphen organized with ZED at the end .net. And you have all kinds of information on there with types of services. You can email me from there. And I do offer a free consultation in general, but especially now with the virtual, because people have questions of how it works. And I'm happy to set up a consult with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to everybody that jumped in and said hi and your comments in the notes in the side here. I'm going to drop back by and I'm going to answer as many of those as I can after this is over. And for those of you that are watching the replay, feel free to leave your comments in the notes below. I want you
Excellent.
guys to also pick up a copy of Nicole's book, which is called The Art of Organizing. And I will
Yes.
leave links in the notes to that as well,
Thank
because this is
you.
one of those things that I really think this is going to be a game changer for you with the pictures.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Nicole, for joining us today. This
You're
was
welcome.
so much fun.
Oh,
And
you're welcome. It was great. Thanks for having me. Oh, and by the way, the book is available on Amazon or any bookstore. It's distributed through Ingram Books, so it's worldwide distribution.
awesome. Thank you guys
Thank
so much. If
you.
I don't see you before, have a very, very Merry Christmas and a
Yes.
Happy New Year.